The Public Accounts Committee was asked to conduct an inquiry by Treasurer Bill Yan, and its report was tabled yesterday. Clinton Howe is the chair of the committee and the CLP member for Drysdale. Clinton, good morning.
Good morning, Rick, and good morning, Territorians.
This ship lift has cost way more than it was meant to. It never had a business case drawn up. It's blown past construction deadlines and has been administered by more government departments than most people could name. Your letter at the front says it is the committee's view that these decisions constitute the greatest transfer of public wealth to private wealth in the Northern Territory's history. The Territory now carries more than $1.8 billion in lifetime cost exposure, while holding no right to revenue generated by the facility it is building. And yet the committee's first recommendation is that construction be continued and completed. Why?
Yes, and that point there you've made, Rick, that this is the largest transfer of public to private wealth in NT's history, should send a shiver down every Territorian's spine. And as the committee, which is made up of 5 of us, so there's 3 CLP members, being myself, Laurie Zio and Brian O'Gallagher, and an independent in Justine Davies, and a Labor member, Manuel Brown. All 5 of us have unanimously agreed on this report. And the fact that there was no business case put forward, and I'll go through the timeline. So essentially we had, as you mentioned, the $100 million put forward by the Mills government. And so the Mills-Giles government put that, it was a $100 million incentive, which was to be then taken up. The idea was that private enterprise will conduct the building, the investment, and they would get the financial benefit as well. So all the risk was placed on private enterprise for them to go and do their due diligence. That wasn't taken up. So then we have the Gunner government came in, and it was under the government that this deal was struck and that wealth transfer occurred. And as we looked through, essentially we hit the point of this was a cabinet decision, despite advice given by departments, despite the advice given on what was labelled the bespoke contract that the Gunner government struck. That cabinet still went ahead. Why? We'll never know. And in chapter 4 of the report, I do mention that really now, where we hit cabinet in confidence, it is up to the free press to scrutinise. And I think this needs to be scrutinised. So
to scrutinise the cabinet members and ask them why they did what they did,
Absolutely.
Because otherwise we'll find out in 30 years.
Yes. So, and so that was one part of it. So we have the Gunner committed to that wealth transfer. We then have Eva Lawler and her cabinet expand on the deal. Again, it is only, that was all decisions made by cabinet and pushed down to the department to execute. So again, why that expansion happened, and if Territorians are wondering why we're still paying in the current budget, it is because we are contractually obligated to continue that funding. And what's even more concerning is those deals were struck prior to the NT general election, and there was no public announcement of the additional spending that was going to be allocated. That landed on the Treasurer's desk, Treasurer Bill Yarn's desk, as we got into government, which is why he triggered this inquiry.
So given all that, given that we won't find out about the cabinet decision, and there are a lot of things to do with this that it will be commercial in confidence as well, how can the NT government now avoid throwing more good money after bad?
Yeah, and so that'll take us into the recommendations. And so, and to your point earlier, we as a committee, we had a whole line of inquiry to see if we can get out of this deal. And can the NT government actually walk away and just stop spending? Unfortunately, we cannot. It is, and that was signed off by the Lawler government. We are contractually obligated, and the current CLP government will have to adhere to that contract.
And if you tried to get out of it, it could actually cost the NT government more than going ahead.
Yeah, it will cost more. So if we were to get out of it, as the contracts state, it will still be built. We will still have to pay, and we'll have to pay damages and legal fees on top of it.
Pass Bailey seems to be holding a lot of cards at the end of this. They promised to shut down their Francis Bay ship lift when this one opens, But they're still making bookings because they don't trust the latest deadline for the ship lift to be up and running. That's the 1st of March 2027. But the 1st of March 2026, which isn't that long away, is an important deadline too. What needs to happen by then?
Yeah, absolutely. And so this speaks to other recommendations we've put forward to make sure, look, right now we've got a certain unflavoured type of sandwich that the government's got to deal with, and the government's got to make the best of the situation. And so a few recommendations we've made is, one is the pricing, for it. And so the quicker we can get that through Parliament, and that can start giving some certainty.
So this is access and pricing legislation. I don't know much about how does it work? So what will that actually do? It will tell other operators how much it costs to use the ship lift?
Yeah, so it'll tell potential customers what the costs are going to be. And so I'll talk to those three recommendations. So we've got the pricing legislation, which will give certainty to the marketplace as to what it's going to cost to use the facility. This will allow the operator to go out and start engaging customers and start making bookings. Then we've recommended government also start initiatives to grow the workforce so that we actually have a skilled workforce that can operate this ship lift and conduct all the servicing that it can do.
That will take quite some effort, won't it?
It will, which is why it's a recommendation to government. Yeah.
Now, Defence has been involved in the design process and there have been modifications made to suit their changing needs, but they haven't yet officially signed up to use the new ship lift. Based on what the committee saw during the inquiry, how confident are you that this entity that is expected to generate half of the ship lift's work will actually use it?
Well, Rick, that is a great question, and it again speaks to the indefensible aspects of this deal that was struck between the Gunner and Lawler governments. The fact is we don't know. I believe, following the inquiry, I believe it does serve Defence well. There's
lots of stuff in the report about how Defence is very favourably inclined and sounds like they want to.
Look, I think Defence didn't want to touch this whilst this was all going on. And I think that's how they've played it. And I think once there's probably certainty to it, we'll see maybe more forthcoming from Defence.
Paspaley's kind of holding off as well because they are taking bookings because they're not sure that they'll be able to use the ship lift when it's meant to be delivered.
And now that we know for certainty that we can't get out of it, we now want to make the best we can do. We want to make marine industry as profitable, economic incentive. We want the jobs to come in. We want that industry to grow. And we want Paspaley to have confidence it's going to work as well so that they can have certainty to push ahead.
What revenue will the NT government actually see from this enormous ongoing expense? Because the NT will be on the hook for future capital works. What will the NT government get out of it?
We will get nothing directly. We will get nothing directly out of it. We will get indirect benefit. And so to kind of go into what we're on the hook for, so $1.8 billion over the life of the project. So we have $820 million in capital works. We then have $800 million in loan repayments that we have to put forward over 23 and a half years. And that's going to cost about $35 million a year in interest. On top of that, we have to maintain the ship lift at a cost of, I believe it's about $5 to $7 million a year. And we have to maintain that for the life of the project. So
50 years, give or take.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So I think it's designed for 40 years, and with proper maintenance, we should get 50 years out of it. So 40 plus 10. So we're looking at a $1.8 billion investment over the life of the project. There is no direct revenue. It'll only be indirect, which again speaks to the indefensible deal that was struck between Gunner and Lawler.
If Paspaley does close down its Fanny Bay ship lift, how could the land around it change? There's some mention in the report of up to 15,000 people living in that area that until now has been industrial. So is that a real prospect that there'll be that industrial area will be turned into a new suburb?
Look, Rick, to be honest, we as a committee didn't really go. That wasn't really a line of inquiry, so I couldn't give you any confidence on that.
Late last week, we learned that a parliamentary committee has recommended the Northern Territory Government finish building the $820 million Darwin Ship Lift Project. That is despite holding no right to the revenue that it's going to generate. The NT Public Accounts Committee releasing that report into the embattled ship lift on Thursday, providing 5 recommendations, including the project proceed with stricter cost controls.
Yep.
Chief Minister, have you had a chance to go through that report, and what do you make of it?
Yeah, I have, and we're very glad that the PAC took a really close look at this. This was a unanimous report, no dissenting reports, and so it is the position of the Parliament. And ultimately, it spells out really clearly for Territorians that Labor completely lack transparency on this project, that the blowout is astronomical at around, $820 million, but also that we're at the point of no return on this project. We've sunk so much now, we're contractually locked in, we've got to move forward. Now, that all sounds pretty doom and gloom, and it is shocking. But what we have to do now is make the best of a bad situation. We are going to have an asset that we have to use to grow our economy, create jobs, and really bolster the maritime sector. So I'm going to Perth next week, Katie, to visit Henderson because I want to see for myself what we could possibly do to this, because we've got to go just all in on this now and make this thing worth it.
Well, we're right in. There's no other way to go.
Yeah.
And look, in saying that, I know I've spoken to local business operators who say, Katie, this is going to be a good thing, and they think that it's going to be a positive for the Northern Territory. But I mean, just first off, where is the construction at? Like, how far in are we?
Yeah, there's a lot of, I've seen it from the sky whenever I've flown in, Katie, so there's a lot of dirt being moved and things are happening out there. There's all of the contracts have been done, so that's all locked in and tenders, etc. And so basically there's still a number of years for this project to roll out, but that gives us time to really establish a maritime industry and what that could look like for the Territory. We know Defence will be interested. Now, they generally play hard to get on these types of issues, Katie, but I think once it's built, we will see that investment. But it's all of the other collateral around it and making sure that Territory businesses can grow, expand, or create new businesses to really complement all of the types of servicing that different ships require. Yeah. So it's lots of things. It's electrical, it's plumbing, it's the basics as well as all of the highly technical components of
I've got to tell you, though, I always found it really odd over the last 10 years in discussing this ship lift that it was a kind of a conversation of build it and they will come. And I was like, well, it goes totally against a usual commercial project or any kind of project that you would, or business that you would ordinarily, you would hope that you've got a few contracts locked in when you're building something of this magnitude and to this expense of taxpayers' dollars. I mean, when you look at the fact that that PAC report found that the government would carry more than $1.8 billion in lifetime cost exposure while holding no right to revenue generated by the building of this facility. To you as the Chief Minister, when you look at our debt levels and when you look at this as what it's going to do you actually feel confident that it's going to fulfil what you hope it will in terms of generating business, generating wealth to other Territorians, if not actually paying back the Northern Territory government?
Yeah, Katie, it's a big issue. Now, do we want to see an 820 build? No. All we can do now is make sure those costs are controlled as much as humanly possible. Yes, there are a legacy, there are ongoing costs that we will have to pay, taxpayers will have to pay. So that's why our using this to grow the economy is so important. I do believe in this project, Katie. All things aside, costs and the schmozzle that was Labor and the fact that there was no business case, the fact that they lied to Territorians by not putting the costs in the budget. I mean, it's just an absolute joke. It makes me so goddamn mad, Katie, I can tell you. But at the end of the day, this is a project where we can turn the dial for the Territory. It is a project where businesses can grow and it will grow the private sector. And that's our focus. We can't have a strong economy without a strong private sector. So I'll learn as much as I can about it myself. That's why I'm going to Henderson, because we need to put serious focus on this to make sure it is ready to go. We want it to be successful, and people are sick of talking about it as well. So we just need to get this done, and we need to make the absolute best of it while controlling the costs as much as we can.
All right. The report also recommended the Northern Territory government legislate an access and pricing regime for the ship lift as soon as possible. When's that going to happen?
Yes, so some work has already been done on that, but we've been waiting, obviously, for the Public Accounts Committee to do their report. So the Treasurer is responsible for that legislation, and we will move as quickly as we can to make sure that that's done, Katie, because it's the next big piece of the puzzle.